Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show slash NBA draft analysis so far slash hang out with Jared Weiss over in Boston. They don't call it Boston Garden. What
Why
do they
we're
call it?
really here.
Yes,
This is actually we're at the practice facility. This is the Auerbach Center.
the Auerbach Center, named after the legendary Celtics coach Red Auerbach. So, let's talk draft. Let's get into it. Well, we don't have a ton of time because it's still going on. I know you got to run out here in a minute, but let's give our impressions first and foremost. Where should we start? At the top of the draft? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean Zion's not too much of a surprise there. So I guess the world continues to spin on its axis. However, I guess the biggest surprise looking at the board so far has just been Cam Johnson going to Phoenix at 11 after they trade down from 6 where they could have had Jared Culver. I'm assuming he must have had the most incredible visit with Phoenix for them to want to make that pick because that was a huge reach for pretty much everybody's board out there. The moves at the top there where Atlanta ends up with DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, so they get a defensive specialist and they get an offensive specialist there. They kind of get the best of both worlds. Maybe they can combine them into one player who actually is an All NBA caliber player.
Well, hang on though. DeAndre Hunter, I wouldn't put him only in the category of defense. Wait, is that how you're saying this defensive specialist?
Well, he's a 3-and-D guy, so I mean, however you want to go with that. But I'm saying his game is more defensive inclined, while Cam's game is much more offensively inclined.
I guess so. I mean, I feel like DeAndre Hunter does have a lot of ability. He can shoot, he can put the ball on the floor, and he's big, at his size. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily all of a sudden put him in that category. I mean, I guess what's the category you're going to put him in? Are we saying like a Draymond Green kind of offense where we're talking about,
I'm going to compare him to Draymond, but I mean, it's the 4th pick of the draft, so it's not like he's like only a defensive specialist. Obviously, he can do more. It's just his game is more inclined to that kind of makeup.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. He's a solid defensive player. Now, Cam Reddish again has all the tools we talk about as far as physically to be able to play defense. I'm actually higher on him. I know it's not that surprising he went 10th. It's probably where he should have gone, but he had been rated higher at some points during this year. I like his game. I think he's got a lot of ability. I mean, I know he's inconsistent, but the dude was, 18, 19 years old playing at Duke, in a weird situation with 2 other guys who were getting all the hype in the same age. So I don't know. Are you prepared to write off Cam Reddish like a lot of people seem to have?
Oh, no, that's insane. Well, for one, he's a rookie. You never write off a rookie. But, when I saw him, I scouted him when he was a senior, and there were a few red flags that I wasn't crazy about. He just seemed a little too laid back and passive. And there was something about him that made me feel that as the defenses got much more intense, he would struggle, and it's going to be a long process for him to kind of develop that motor again. And so, I think that there's plenty of upside for him to be, a 20 plus point scorer and be a distributor. I mean, what made him such a tantalizing prospect and the reason why he was kind of like the consensus number 3 prospect coming into the year was that not only was he kind of a 3-level scorer, but he also could run pick and roll and be a good playmaker all over the floor. He could make the pass coming over the screen on the pick and roll to pretty much anywhere on the court. He had a lot of those really special skills that when you're 6'8" and have a big wingspan, can make you a potential All-NBA caliber player. So that upside is still there, but it's just that he was just so passive and was such a poor shooter inside the arc too. Yeah. Couldn't finish, couldn't get to his mid-range game. But you know what? In Atlanta, the spacing is going to be tremendous, it seems, and that could be exactly what he needs.
I love what Atlanta has done now. They've really done, a terrific 2 years in a row where they now have Trae Young. John Collins really went under the radar. Dude's like a 2010 machine who could shoot threes, and I don't think anybody knows that. I was going to do a video on him, and then the season got away from me, but I think I will. I might even get him on the show, so stay tuned for that one. But now you throw in DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, and they already also have Omari Spellman, who I like, and I think could be really good as a small ball 5 and can fill in a role there. They have a nice little team already.
Oh, they do. They do. It's been a pretty incredible turnaround in just a couple of years. And, I mean, we can argue Luka versus Trae till the day we die, but what they done with that extra pick that they got out of that, they turned it into DeAndre Hunter. And, I guess if you look at it from that perspective, I guess maybe I would rather have Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter than have Luka in a vacuum. But I mean, Luka's probably going to be my favorite player in the NBA, so that's a tricky one. But either way, they've done an amazing job of maximizing value wherever they can. And while it might take them still a little while to build up into being a plus 500 team, they have pretty much everything in place to have a really great foundation now as a real contender down the road.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Let's go on to John Morant at number 2. Memphis grabbed him. They got rid of Mike Conley. Obviously, they knew they were going to then pick up John Morant. I like Mike Conley. I think he's done well in what he's been able to do in Memphis throughout his career, even though all the injuries. But I think it's safe to say that John Morant has every opportunity now to eclipse anything that Mike Conley had ever done for them.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, Morant, you can just see that there's a little bit of a spark there that gives him an upside that maybe Conley didn't quite have. But I'm a huge Conley fan, and I'm so excited to see him in Utah. I think Utah is going to be a tremendous fit for him. I think he complements Mitchell really well there. And so, from Memphis' perspective, they're suddenly a super athletic team. I mean, they don't have that many pieces in place yet for us to really know for sure. But as far as like their young guys, between him and Triple J, they've got some major athletic length at that position, at their positions. And Triple J, I feel like he does everything great except for being like a really dominant scorer, and you have a potentially dominant scorer in Morant there, so they have the yin and yang down really nicely, and that's the right kind of two core that you want established there.
For sure. Well, you know what? We got to jump over to New Orleans because I think they're the winners of the month, the way this has gone with what David Griffin has done so far. They made a huge splash with Anthony Davis and got a nice haul for that, which you never get when you have to trade a player that good. And then they've done some things in the draft as well. So they grabbed Jackson Hayes at 8 out of Texas. I was going to think, okay, if they have Zion Williamson coming in and he's going to be like their power forward and should be terrific, you'd need like a good center sort of to play behind him to protect the rim and move. I think this is a huge win for them because not only is he like Clint Capella in some respects, at least in that mold, I think he's probably ahead of Clint was offensively at this point of his career.
That's an interesting question there because I feel like Clint's just the guy that can move a lot more with the ball. And I'm not really seeing that potential to really do stuff with the ball that in Hayes that we've seen so far with Capella, where Capella could get the roll real early and he can really dance through the defense to finish. Hayes right now has just been a really dominant force as far as getting high passes in the lane and finishing, being able to use his post-up game to score. So there obviously he's a college prospect and really young guy. Is he the youngest guy in the draft? I think he might be. Or am I mixing it up with somebody else?
Or is a guy from France who was supposed to...
Sekou Doumbouya, who I'm shocked fell to 15. And we'll have to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
I actually thought that New Orleans might be drafting Doumbouya at that pick in number 8. But but the point is, with Hayes, they become super athletic. They're a Lob City type team now. Lonzo Ball and Drew Holiday. So they're going to be throwing lobs all over the place. It's going to be pretty insane.
So it's good. It's not like Bol to me was still going to be years away from really being able to contribute on an NBA court, even though he's got ability and he's long. But as far as what I've seen from Jackson Hayes, athletically, he's got good command of his body. He runs well. But I'm not even saying he's like Clint Capella now. I'm saying he's way ahead of what Clint Capella was at the same age already. So I think that's my point is that, remember, Capella couldn't do the things with the ball he can do now. It took him several years. So, but I've seen enough. I mean, I know that, of course, highlights make everybody look great. But I have seen enough from Jackson Hayes, which looks to me like, he can do a short roll, one dribble, and finish. I'm not sure he's going to hit the corner 3 that easily, but it looks like he's got some ability with the ball to do some handoffs and do the things like that. So, and by the way, as far as the Pelicans go, I got to really quickly check their roster. I think he's going to get a huge opportunity here to play a lot of minutes early.
For Hayes, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably going to start, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else who they have as I quickly go.
They're not going to keep Randall, so.
Oh, is that a done deal?
Well, it's very wide. The noise around him leaving has been pretty strong so far.
Yeah.
So I don't think Cheikh Diallo is going to be starting. Can't remember if he's under roster, but so I guess they didn't have a 5 and now they have one, so I guess he should be starting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they still is Jahlil Okafor is the next question.
That's right. They're keeping Okafor.
They are keeping it, but you know what? He's not a guy to come to start anyway. He'd probably be best off the bench as it is.
Agreed.
So that'll be interesting to see if they really want to go with the rookie that young and that green. But now, if I'm not mistaken, Jackson does have. Jackson Hayes has a lot of. His dad was an NFL player. I think he's got in his background pro athletes. His mom, I think, was a really good player too.
Yeah, so I mean, the pedigree there is very strong,
Yes.
and I mean the athleticism and bod and build is obviously tremendous. We know that that's something that's really special, and I guess New Orleans big part of their approach here is they're going for guys that are really long and athletic for their position. Everybody that they have out there is, I guess, huge for their position, really.
Right, I agree. I agree. It'll be interesting because there's a lot of things, a lot of new players. We got to find out if gosh, help me, Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram are going to be healthy and can play more. So it'd be really interesting to see if they figured out their issues and actually played and got healthy in New Orleans. It's a lot of question marks, but certainly some exciting question marks to say the least.
For sure.
Let's go on to the next one. How about R.J. Barrett? Had a really touching moment with his father. Tweeted that out, and it went well. Got out there. R.J. Barrett, he led Duke in scoring, not Zion. It was R.J. And just I'm really impressed with his game. And the question is, will he be able to do something similar to that in the NBA against better players?
Yeah, I think he's going to be better off when he's actually in the NBA. It just didn't seem like Duke really had their guys fitting together last year, and getting one of those guys each on a team that is actually experienced enough to really make it work is going. I think they're all going to perform better. I still don't really know about Reddish's motor, but I know RJ has a killer instinct, a terrific motor that when he's in the right situation where he's fully motivated can make him a Kobe-esque level killer. But he needs to be in the right situation, and we have no idea what to expect with the Knicks at this point. About are they ever going to be the kind of situation where they can really nurture talent to maximize their potential? And we just have seen it so rarely with them. Or Porzingis feels like the exception to the rule with them. But David Fizdale is, he at least has some longevity and some teeth into his position there. So hopefully he's going to have the freedom to really establish himself, and they really believe in RJ and are going to develop a pick and roll offense around him instead of making him an isolation player where he's just kind of driving and kicking and getting the defense collapse on them. I think they really need to push him to really maximize his playmaking potential, because I know when I scouted him in college or in high school, I saw a guy that could have. I mean, James Harden is a lazy comparison, but as far as having that type of role in an offense, it is something that is possible for him.
Okay. Well, who do you want to talk about next?
Let's see. Matisse Thybulle just got selected by the Celtics, so I guess that means they're going to possibly trade him to the Sixers, according to Woj. So the Celtics might be doing a first-round pick swap or something like that, where they're going to get a future first from Philly so they can get out of this year's draft. We'll see how that trade materializes. I'm not working the phones right now, obviously, so I don't know exactly what's going down there, but something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
Let's see. Who's a prospect that you've had a chance to really watch?
So Jared Culver was a guy I really like. I think he's going to be a terrific pro. And Minnesota grabbed him. Wait, remind me. That's where he's going, right? That's who has him.
Yes.
Okay, I got to make sure which draft list I'm looking at and who's going where, because I know that some of these picks have changed. But no, Jared Culver. Okay, so that's what's interesting. He's going to play alongside Wiggins and Cat. But I think that fits in pretty well. I mean, certainly they can all three play together and should be able to coexist, well together in a nice athletic long, lineup. So I think he's going to be really, really just a good player. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the NBA.
Yeah, it's so funny how they're trying to trade Andrew Wiggins, and now they've drafted the anti-Wiggins. He is the perfect antimatter to what Andrew Wiggins is. He is a good playmaker. He is super, he's an athletic but like powerful attacker. Well, actually, I guess Wiggins can do that pretty well too. But he just like he can do everything. I feel like that Wiggins doesn't do. And then, ironically, I feel like Wiggins is great at the stuff that he doesn't do. And his big thing is he needs to get rid of that hitch at the top of his jump shot. And if that happens, then the sky could be the limit for Culver, and he could be an All NBA caliber wing.
Yeah, I agree. And they certainly the Minnesota needs that. They need more guys who are, I think obviously Wiggins' knock has always been, doesn't quite play hard enough, doesn't give out, those kind of things. And I don't think that's going to be an issue with Culver. In fact, I would be surprised if he didn't sort of become a have control, like, not like a typical rookie. He'll actually have like a serious role, and they will go to him, and he'll be able to perform. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Although, again, I don't think. I mean, what do we think about Minnesota's going in this year? I mean, they're not going to make the playoffs, right?
No, they're not. And the point guard situation is so bizarre there. I mean, everybody thought that when they were making that trade up, they were going to take Kobe White. So that was a little bit surprising, but I guess they just wanted to get the best player they could there, which I'm glad that they did. And they definitely can. I mean, I feel like their only need or the only non-need is a 5, right? Like they can use pretty much anything else.
Right. Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
After trading away Dario.
Right. I mean, the point guard, Jeff Teague isn't going to do it. Derrick Rose is not coming back, is he?
He is. I think he's a free agent now.
He is. So, and as far as we know, I mean, do we have any notice what his status is going to be?
I mean, who knows if he's even going to play again next year? I assume he's going to, but with everything he's been going through over the years, you never know if he's just ready to walk away. But he can make some money this offseason, so
yeah, he had a good year.
Will end up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, let's see here. What's next then on that list then? Because we could talk about Kobe White. I know the Bulls wanted to upgrade from Chris Dunn, which, I had thought that Chris Dunn could be a starting point guard, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen for whatever reason, or for we know why. So they're going to bring in Kobe White. Good size, when you go through the highlights at North Carolina, there is something there. I just don't know if I'm sold on him at all. What about you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that seem to think that he's going to be pretty limited as far as his ball handling capability and what kind of playmaker he's going to be in the NBA. I haven't scouted him deeply enough to really be able to make that judgment call, but it certainly seems like there were a few teams up there that really could have used a point guard and didn't bite anyway. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, who knows? But the Bulls, I guess they have to make that move. And they probably, because they weren't able to get Culver, there was nobody left at that position besides White that was like clearly the right pick there. They clearly didn't feel that great about Cam Reddish, so they didn't make that pick. Mm-hmm. And White just fits such a clear need. You always want to try to take the best player available, and they could use some wings. But I mean, hey, they they at least have a point guard that should be able to play point guard, and that's something they've been really struggling with for a while now, ever since Derrick Rose got hurt, basically. So at least they should finally have that.
Yeah, no, well, we'll see. Yeah, again, so don't know explosiveness, creativity, facilitation of the ball. I just, those are question marks. Where sometimes when I'm watching these guys, it jumps out at me right away. Yeah. Now, let me just throw this out there, because I am encouraged by a lot of the players. A lot of hopping going on in the shots, so that's really exciting to see. First of all, second of all, I feel like when I'm going through watching all these players, so many of them are now having what we call a low release point. And what that says to me is that we're finally getting away from this like the Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, really high airspace releases, which limit your ability to shoot consistently from deep. So I also feel like as soon as you would walk in, the old school coaches would be like, "Oh, you got to fix that shot, get it up higher over your eyebrow or whatever." So by not seeing that, I think what that means is that the coaches are finally understanding that it doesn't matter. That's not the issue, and in fact, maybe a lower release point, it helps you shoot from distance better and can control the shot better. So I'm encouraged. I think going forward that we're going to see more and more of this, and then I think what that means is we're going to see more and more good shooting from deep.
That's right. And we got a couple updates to make here. See, the reason why I originally told you before we were doing it tonight that I wanted to start at 10 was because I knew the Celtics would be making a bunch of moves. And sure enough, the Celtics have traded the 20th pick to Philly for the 24th pick and the 33rd pick. So the Celtics, and they had the 22nd pick already, so they dropped back 2 spots, pick up an early second rounder. I wouldn't be surprised to see them just trade all the first round picks and just go with the second rounder. Because using the 33rd pick is really nice, and that you can get, comparable to end of the first round talent, but then you're able to structure the deal as you want and not be stuck with, 4-year deal with the options of free agency. So, or restricted free agency. So that'll be really interesting. But Philly gets, they trade up to 20 and got Matisse Thybulle, whose name I probably butchered because I've literally never heard his name actually said out loud, because when I do all my scouting, I watch everything on mute. But so, he's a bulldog. He's kind of, a lot of people have compared him to Marcus Smart, and it's actually not too bad of a comparison. And so it's funny to see the Celtics, who just drafted Romeo Langford, who's from the same agency as Marcus Smart, that they passed on the other clone of Marcus Smart in this draft, which maybe affirms that they're not going to be trading Smart during the offseason. But
Right.
so then OKC traded back from 21 to 23, and then they're getting a second round pick in the future from Memphis, who's moving up to 21 and taking Brandon Clark, who should fit nicely as a future starting 4 next to Triple J starting at the 5 down the road. I don't see Clark as a 3 in the NBA. I see him as really a 4. So either they think he's going to be a 3, or they aren't planning on paying Jonas Valanciunas, and they have their 4 and 5 of the future.
Okay, fair enough. I am trying right now as we talk to see if I can't share the list of the draft choices as they come up. So I'm trying this right now. Let me see if I can figure that out. Here's this. But, oh, look at that. It's working. Let me just resize and so you can see better. And then let me crop. Well, okay, let's see. Well, who's next that we could talk about then? Let's see. Anybody we've gone through as we get through here. Darius Garland. Let's talk about, oh, yeah. What do you want to do?
No, go ahead. Let's talk about Garland, because that's a really interesting backcourt situation.
Yes, exactly. I want to talk about Cleveland and him and how that's going to work. So it doesn't necessarily, like, they're the same player, right? And they're both the same size. And so I just don't think, that makes me concerned that it's not going to work perfectly, certainly in the long run with those guys. What do you think?
Well, I think the big difference is that Sexton, at least coming into the league, was not looked at as a knockdown shooter, while Garland is considered to be a knockdown shooter. So when people are making the Dame and CJ comparison, I think for one, they probably do that just because they're thinking of 2 ball handling guards that are really good in the backcourt. But I guess it makes sense to a degree, in that CJ has never been an unbelievable 3-point shooter the way that Dame is, and he's always been really good at having kind of like a dribble penetration game. So maybe Sexton kind of fills that role in the dichotomy, and then Garland fills the Dame role in that dichotomy. But so I'm assuming they're doing this because they think that both of these guys have potential to develop into really good hustle defenders down the road, but also can just be incredible scorers, and they could just both be 25-point a game kind of scorers, and they just want to have as much offensive firepower as they can.
Yes, I agree, right? Because there isn't, I don't know if there's any pressure right now to win in Cleveland as it is. So just get, like, I guess, right, the best player available and let them go. They don't have to stop anybody, right? They just need to, what am I saying? They just need to, fill it up and make it exciting, and maybe have the fans be excited about it.
It's the Vivek Ranadive method. Never play defense, just play offense.
Yeah, right. That is what they're trying to do. I'm just now getting this all set up so I can share this feed with everybody. I don't want to do that. Hang on one second. So, all right, who's next? Because I know we're probably running out of time with you. But here's what I got so far. I'm going to cut over to there. So there you guys go. There's the feed. Can you read that? I wonder if that's too small for everybody on the screen. Let me know on YouTube if you can read that. So if I scroll down a little bit more, am I going to screw that whole thing up? Not too bad. We already know who's at the top. So, what do we have here? Anybody else? Oh, how about Rui? Let's talk about Rui. They're going to Washington.
That's where I wanted to go next. Washington must love him. It doesn't make sense because they didn't get nearly a good enough look at him for it to make a lot of sense. So I just don't see it. I've watched him play.
Wait, when you say they didn't get a good enough look at them, are you saying that, like, they didn't scout him, or they didn't scout him?
No, it's that they didn't. If I'm not mistaken, he did not work out with them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, but also a million things has happened in the last 20 minutes, so I could be mixing it up. But I thought I remember seeing that like multiple times over the last few days. So, I mean, it seems like a reach. There's so many, unless they thought that Atlanta or Phoenix was going to be taking him, then I don't understand why you don't just like trade back with Charlotte, for instance. And I mean, they must have known that there was a promise from somebody right below them, and that they weren't going to be able to get him, because Minnesota was the team that was presumed to have been giving him a promise. They were at 11 and they traded up to 6, and they made the selection well after that trade happened. So
Okay, and there goes Jared. As always, he usually has cut off at least once while we're doing this. So let me, I'll cut to me, and maybe he'll join us again. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'll just throw out my 2 cents about Rui. I've loved his game ever since I saw him. Oh, here he comes. Let's go back. But we lost your mic, so maybe can you get your old mic back? So I'll just finish my thought about Rui before I bring him in. There he is. Okay, there he is, Jared. And I think your mic's probably working well. So
Should be working fine.
great. So what I was going to say about Rui was I've always loved this game. He's very solid. He's not like the most athletic, but he can shoot it. And I'm convinced he'll be able to get back behind the three-point arc in the NBA level and hit shots and space the floor. I just wish he was like 6'10", 6'11", but I kind of think he's legit like 6'9"-ish. So he's not going to be like a small ball center, I don't think. Although, who knows? In another 4 years, small ball centers might be 6'8", right?
It's very possible. It depends on how smart of a defender you are, really.
Right, and what your wingspan is, I imagine.
That too.
Yeah, because Draymond is like maybe 6'7", but he's got a 7'1" wingspan, so that helps. I got to check what Rui's wingspan is, but either way, and he's not really like that physical like that, and he doesn't play defense like that. But I just think he's really skilled, always under control, just the kind of guy you'd want on your team. I suppose he's a little bit in that Otto Porter mold.
Well, it's too bad they don't have Otto Porter. I mean, are they going to pay? OG Bobby Portis? Like, what do they do at this point? I have no idea where they're trying to go, but they need to be. They had a top 10 pick and they took it on a guy who nobody really projected to be an elite talent, and there were other guys that had potential to be elite talent out there. So I don't know why they're doing that when they have this John Wall contract that's going to weigh them down for so long, and they're going to be struggling so much to find good players.
Right. I mean, it sounds like Washington's going to have another sort of lost year, and then I suspect they're going to move Bradley Beal, right?
No, I mean they don't have a GM at this point, which maybe contributed to why this is happening. But they don't have a GM, so you can't.
They
you have
do.
to. Well, they have an
Kinda.
interim GM, but the whole
friend
point
of the
is
breakdown, Tommy Shepard is out there.
Yeah,
He's doing
I'm
the
not trying
job.
to disrespect Tommy and everybody, and he's well liked. But like the point is that a big part of who they hire next has to be making a plan for what you want to get for Bradley Beal. You can't make that deal when you don't have the person who's going to be implementing your future in place. Maybe you have to make that hire, and we know that they were trying to chase Masai, and maybe they're still going to try to chase Masai.
Yeah, the rumor or whatever, the thought process there was because they didn't, officially make Tommy the real GM. Like they know something we don't, as far as maybe Masai Ujiri coming. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just say, you know what, we got to do something here before the draft and get that all settled. So I suppose it's possible.
They don't want to rush it after being stuck with Grenfell for so long. They want to make sure they have the perfect guy.
Okay, so I guess, and then by that same logic, because they didn't rush to get rid of Grunfeld when they should have maybe a couple of years ago, they're not going to rush this decision either. Like they're just slow.
Yeah, I think so.
But still, they've had plenty of time at this point, right?
Yeah, they don't have to trade Beal for a while. They're fine, and I think they still want to offer him. I think they still want to offer him a huge contract extension. They offer him that 3-year, $100 million deal and hope that he takes it because they obviously don't want to get rid of him necessarily.
Right. Well, Dre, yeah, go ahead.
Pick update: the Celtics fell back to 22, and they took Grant Williams, everybody's favorite college basketball player. So that's going to be a pretty interesting one.
Okay. Yeah, they haven't posted it yet onto the ESPN draft watch, but we'll see that.
They're always way behind.
Yeah, it seemed like it was doing
Actually,
pretty
they're
well.
not that far behind right now.
Yeah, they're right on 21st. So Dre Anderson wanted to know if we talked about Culver already. I mean, kind of briefly we did, but yeah, I am high on Culver. I think he's going to be a really good pro. I think you also believe that he's a pretty good fit in Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, Kevin Porter Jr. is an interesting discussion because didn't he just re-injure his knee that he hurt?
Apparently so. I feel like he might be red flagged out of the first round. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever.
Because I read the thing about it. I don't know much about him at all, but all I knew was that he was playing pickup with his brother, and he hurt it. And then they say that he had a torn ACL that was repaired like 5 months ago. And my question is, why are you playing basketball 5 months after an ACL repair? That makes no sense.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, if he was cleared for ball at that point.
5 months seems awfully soon to play. I'm assuming they were playing like pickup, whatever, right? It can't be anything short of 6 months. To me, sounds really short.
I don't know. I mean, guys are getting. I think guys are returning to play sometimes in as soon as 6 months after an ACL tear. So for him to be playing in the backyard or whatever, I think isn't that big a deal.
Oh, all right. It was in the backyard. Is what that's how you felt it was. It didn't seem like I thought they were playing like on the hardwood.
I mean, I could be wrong, but whatever.
Okay, I don't know. All right, fair enough. Well, let's see here. I mean, I know we're kind of running out of time here, so any other questions we might have from the audience here? I'm looking over here on YouTube to see. Let's see. Tomas Alvarez wanted to know how we feel about the Bulls pick. We just kind of covered that briefly, but any other things you want to share with about Bulls and about Kobe?
Not really. We've already covered Kobe White. It was probably the best player available to them at that point,
Okay.
and it fixes their hole at point guard.
Now, the Bulls shocking. Dwayne Pindling is shocked that they drop out of the first round. Apparently, it's not. I don't know how shocking it is. Only because. I got to click. Let's see. Because I don't. I think everyone sort of saw what we are seeing now, which is that he just sort of. What's the word I'm looking for? He just wasn't ready.
Yeah, he's not close to NBA ready. But let's see. Looking through who's left in the draft here, there's no team that is a clear fit for him. I could see Portland maybe being interested in doing that. By the way, I have to take off here in a couple of minutes. It looks like,
Okay.
but I could see Portland's being potentially interested in that home run swing. Cleveland maybe could be. Brooklyn maybe. I don't think Golden State is. I think Golden State wants to lock down actual rotation guys at this pick.
Yeah, and they bought a pick. Is that the pick you're talking about? 28th? Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, remember what they did last time they did that, and they got Jordan Bell, who contributes, and who knows, maybe he'll continue to get better. They kind of stalled, but again, you have to keep your eye on them because they seem to be able to nail those. All right, well, listen, you want to answer one last question before you get out of here?
Sure.
Who do you think will win next year? Debts without regret.
What, the title?
Let's go with the title. Yeah.
Oh my God! Whoever Bull goes to, that's it.
All right. Did San Antonio make a good pick? They didn't pick yet, did they?
They did.
They
took
Luka.
another. They took another overseas special, and Luka Samanic, which Luka Doncic really approved of. I never really scouted Luka because I assumed that he was going to get picked by the Spurs. He's a Spurs special. RC Buford has been scouting him for a while now. I mean, he's another guy that probably we're not going to hear from for 2 years, and then he's going to come over and become one of the most important players.
Yeah, right, exactly. We'll see how that works. But either way, well, Jared, thanks for hopping in here and we'll giving a quick reaction to some of these picks.
Fun as always.
I knew I wanted to get this out. We talked about this last week to do this, so glad you can sneak in here before you have to run and cover the Celtics and whatever that team is doing. But great stuff. And then I guess we'll have to come back, sooner than later. Maybe we can do one actually together, right, in July.
That's right. Yeah, we'll see you soon then. Thanks for having me, man.
You got it. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Jared? I guess he is. Oh, wow.